Why did they think silence meant weakness? Rain whispered over the treetops the way memory whispers over a scar, soft, unrelenting, impossible to ignore. She stood at the edge of the training ridge, boots planted in mud turned to cold paste, the wind tugging strands of dark hair free from under her hood. Young faces moved in front of her, cadets straining under packs too heavy for their frame and pride too big for their experience. They thought they were learning how to become warriors. They didn't yet understand they were still learning how to see. She didn't speak, she didn't move. She simply watched, eyes like winter steel tracking rope tension, anchor angle, body weight distribution. She saw where hands trembled, where confidence cracked, where bravado replaced competence. She saw the fraying line before anyone else did. She always did. They did not know her. That was by design. Her name, at least the one she used today, was Anna Reed. A consultant, the paperwork claimed. A structural engineering specialist, a civilian with terrain logistics expertise. On paper, she had spent years designing mountain transport systems. In truth, she had spent years ghosting across mountains where the air smelled like fear and cordite, where men whispered prayers into rifles and where silence meant survival. Paper lies. Experience does not. Cadet Captain Marcus Evans looked at her the same way boys at bars once had, mistaking calm for vulnerability, quiet for lack. "You're blocking the path, ma'am," he'd said earlier with smug amusement, as if the forest had elected him gatekeeper of humility. "This area's dangerous if you don't know what you're doing." Danger. The word always amused her. Danger wasn't rain and rope. Danger was watching a teammate bleed out in a valley where no helicopter could come. Danger was holding the line when comms died and you were outnumbered 6-1. Danger was writing a letter to a mother because her son had believed fear made him weak, and so he'd hidden it, and so he'd died. This was children tasting discomfort for the first time. Yet something in the air felt heavier today, water and wind and the slow tightening coil of fate. She could sense it, storm pressure shifting, a rope angle just slightly, dangerously wrong. She breathed in, the air sharp and metallic, and waited. Why intervene before the fall teaches them gravity? A crack of rock shifted underfoot, unnoticed by excited boots. Eager voices barked orders that sounded more like recited doctrine than lived reality. They wanted to impress the evaluators. They wanted to prove that they deserved uniforms and rank and the right to lead. But leadership is rarely loud. It is the quiet weight you carry when the world collapses and eyes turn to you because there is nowhere else to look. A cadet, Miller, thin, anxious, eyes darting like prey, stepped onto the rope bridge. He hesitated one heartbeat too long and his body betrayed him. His foot slipped. He caught himself, breath jerking loud enough for Anna to hear. His panic traveled through the line like electricity. She could feel failure approaching the way a hunter feels wind shift. Her shoulders rolled back slightly, subtle, instinctive, a body preparing before a mind admits what must happen. Evans barked orders again, louder this time, too loud. Volume is often a mask for fear. The rope twitched, groaned. A piton in shale, rookie mistake. She saw the earth crumble around it before the sound came. A sharp snap cut the morning open. Gasps. A scream. Rope dropped, whipping through hands. Miller swung into empty space, body twisting, legs flailing 100 feet above the churning water below. Chaos, real chaos. It always arrives suddenly. Evans froze. Of course he did. He had never tasted the metallic clarity of true emergency. His pride had never been tested by gravity and time and mortality. The cadets shouted, voices high with youth, fear turning their bodies frantic, training evaporated. Paper skills washed away in rain and adrenaline. They didn't need orders, they needed calm, focus, precision. They needed her. She moved. Not fast, not rushed, pure efficiency. Her steps cut through mud with the confidence of someone who had walked toward danger more times than she'd walked toward safety. Her hand unclipped her pack. The flap opened. Tools appeared not by thought but by memory, hands that had built systems in darkness, under gunfire, with only minutes before enemy radio intercept. No one noticed her until she was already securing a redundant line. Only then did the shouting quiet, not by command but by presence. They watched her movements, stripped of doubt, stripped of ego, purpose. There is a kind of confidence that terrifies people because it exposes their own illusions. Evans found his voice. "Stop, hey, you can't just." She didn't turn, didn't answer, didn't waste breath acknowledging irrelevance. There are moments when speaking is surrender. Instead, she looped line to anchor, tied a knot with the elegance of muscle memory crafted in environments these kids couldn't imagine. She glanced once at Miller, eyes huge, lips trembling, rain mixing with tears he wouldn't admit to. "You're going to be okay," she said to him softly, calm, grounding. Her voice didn't shout. It landed like a hand on a trembling shoulder. She clipped in. No hesitation, no pause, no calculation of risk. This wasn't heroism. Heroism is a myth soldiers tell themselves to make sense of loss. This was duty, simply duty. Life is given when you can give it. That's the unwritten oath. She stepped backward toward the ravine, rope sliding through her gloved grip. Mud shifted. Wind pushed. Rain streaked across her cheek like war paint. The drop yawned below her, cold, merciless, waiting. She hung over worse edges. Halfway down, a sound rose over the storm, the sudden, cutting thrum of rotor blades slicing through cloud. Heads turned. Eyes widened. Blackhawk unmarked, silent approach, precision hover. Not Academy equipment. Her unit, or what used to be her unit. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. Trust like that is earned in places where failure buries bodies, not reputations. She reached Miller, clipped him to her. His breath came in sharp, animal bursts. Panic makes the world small. She gave him her steadiness the way one gives warmth in snow. He clung to it without knowing. "You're safe," she whispered, not as comfort but as fact. "Breathe." The hoist dropped, connection made, lift engaged. For one suspended moment they hung in midair, two shapes against the storm, one trembling, one utterly still. Then sky swallowed them. Cadets stared upward as if watching myth take flight. Evans, face pale, pride fractured, stood in rain like a boy who had just learned he wasn't a man yet. When boots touched ground again, on a ridge hundreds of meters away, shielded from cadet eyes, Anna unclipped, checked Miller's breathing, adjusted his thermal blanket. His voice shook. Who are you?" She didn't answer. Some answers aren't spoken. They're earned in whispers of reputation long after you leave the room. The Blackhawk pilot leaned out, helmet visor reflecting stormlight. "Ready?" he called. She didn't get in. "I'm not done here," she replied. "Not done teaching them what real leadership looks like." She walked back toward the training grounds, alone, quiet, unassuming, a shadow returning to a stage where no one yet knew the play had only begun. Rain still fell, but now whispers moved with it, fear, awe, confusion. A new storm brewed, not of weather but truth. Silence has gravity when it belongs to someone who has carried life and death in their hands. And as she approached the stunned cadets, her hood low, her pace steady, none of them spoke. Their noise died, their arrogance cracked, their certainty dissolved. She passed by Evans without a word. She didn't need one. Some lessons are sharper than speech. The ravine behind them swallowed rainwater and echoes. The world before them shifted, slightly but permanently. They didn't yet know who she was. They only knew what she had done. And in the military, real military, not the costume version, actions outrank everything. Especially words. She stopped at the ridge, hands resting lightly on the rope she had resecured moments ago, the lifeline no one else could build. 40 feet behind her, a cadet finally whispered what everyone felt but feared to voice. "Sir, who was she?" Evans didn't answer. He couldn't. Labels failed where truth stood. He only swallowed hard, rain mixing with shame on his skin, and breathed a quiet admission to himself. I never saw her coming. And I never will forget that. The storm rolled over the forest, relentless as revelation. And for the first time in years, Anna Reed felt something rare in her chest, a faint pulse of purpose returning. She had walked away from war, but war still lived in her bones. Not the violence, not the gunfire. The responsibility. Some legacies do not rest. Some quiet warriors do not retire. They simply wait for a new battlefield, one where ignorance is the enemy and humility is the victory. And here, among future soldiers drowning in pride they hadn't yet earned, she found her mission again. Not to fight. To teach them what true strength sounds like when it finally speaks. Nothing at all. Why did coming back to peace feel harder than going to war? Morning rolled over the mountains with that slow, merciless clarity sunlight brings after storms. The kind of morning that exposed things, muddy footprints where panic had lived, rope fibers torn where ignorance had stretched too far. A young man's pride lying somewhere in that ravine with broken leaves and forgotten adrenaline. She walked alone on the gravel path, boots crunching lightly. Her clothes were still damp, but discomfort never registered as suffering to someone who had learned to measure pain on a different scale. Real pain wasn't rain. Real pain was memory. Her breath misted in the cold morning air, steady and controlled. Everything about her was measured. The world took from her once, everything loud and precious and irreplaceable. In return, it gave her something rarer, silence inside the storm. But peace had never sat right in her chest, not truly. Quiet made room for ghosts. Footsteps approached behind her, hesitant, uncertain. She didn't turn. Cadets walked like that when they weren't sure if they should salute or apologize. "Ma'am," a young voice called gently. Not Evans, softer female, worried. Anna paused. She didn't sigh. Discipline ran deeper than visible emotion, but she allowed a heartbeat of stillness before facing the girl. The cadet stood straight, rain jacket hastily zipped, hair tied back in a regulation bun that would loosen by afternoon. Her name tape read Soto. She looked tired, but not physically. The kind of tired eyes get when something they thought they understood suddenly shifts forever. I just wanted to say thank you," Sode, swallowed, voice rough like she'd been rehearsing the words all night. "Nobody said it yesterday, so thank you for saving him." It wasn't gratitude she was carrying, it was guilt, the kind that gnaws, the kind that keeps you awake staring at ceilings. Anna studied her quietly. She saw the tremble Soto tried to hide in her fingers, the lingering shock in her breath pattern. These kids weren't weak, just untested, untouched by consequence. "It's not your fault," Anna said softly. Soto's chin shook. "It feels like it is." "Good," Anna replied, "it should." Surprise flickered across the girl's face, then understanding. Real warriors don't grow from comfort. They grow from the sharp edges of truth. Soda blinked back tears she refused to let fall. "Ma'am, who are you?" Anna held her gaze, not unkind, not distant, just real. "No one important," she said. It was the truth and a lie at once. Importance isn't rank. Importance is what you carry, what you choose to bear, what you refuse to let fall even when you break. Soto nodded as if she understood more than she did. Then she saluted, awkward but earnest, and continued down the trail. Anna watched her go. Some of them would become leaders, some would drown in their own bravado, some would carry shadows they never anticipated, and some would remind her of who she used to be before she learned that heroism was a word civilians used when they didn't understand the cost. She turned back toward the woods. The smell of pine and earth pulled memories like threads behind her ribcage. There was another ravine once, another rope, another scream. Another boy hanging in the balance, except there had been gunfire in that valley, not rain. Dust, not mist. A bleeding friend, not a scared cadet. and instead of a helicopter descending calm and clean, there had been black smoke curling from an engine shot to hell, and the extraction bird never made it to the LZ. His name was Miller. His name was Jameson. A half-laugh always lived in his voice, even in firefights. A stupid superstition about pocketing smooth stones before missions for luck, even though luck never stayed with their team long. He was younger than she was but carried himself like someone who thought being invincible was a personality trait. He had believed life would give him time to figure himself out. Life didn't negotiate like that. Her jaw tightened. Years later, she still remembered his weight on her harness. The way blood feels when it spills down your uniform and you know you'll smell iron for months. The way a helicopter never sounds as loud as the absence that follows when it's gone. She pushed the memory back into the shelf in her mind where she kept ghosts folded neatly. A soldier does not drown in the past. She lets it weigh her enough to stay grounded, but not enough to sink her. A flashlight beam cut across the morning haze. An instructor approached with a clipboard and the stiff posture of someone who thought order could solve everything. "Ms. Reed," he greeted, voice strained, respectful in the way only fear could teach respect. "Admiral Vance would like to see you." Of course he would. Command always likes to stand close to the fire while pretending they're not warmed by it. She nodded once. No salutes, civilians don't salute, and legends don't need to. They walked side by side, gravel popping under boots. He didn't speak until he couldn't hold his curiosity anymore. "I heard about yesterday. They say you moved like you'd rehearsed it 100 times." Her voice was quiet, the tone of someone who had lived past ego. "Rehearsal happens where people don't come home." He looked at her sideways, unsure whether to feel humbled or ashamed. Good, let him feel both. Inside the command tent, warmth gathered in small useless pockets, generator hum, coffee steam, maps pinned like promises no one knew how to keep. Admiral Vance stood waiting, hands clasped behind back, eyes sharp as razor wire. He dismissed the instructor with a flick of his finger, privacy secured. The air felt heavier. "You caused quite an awakening," he began, voice even but carrying weight. "I didn't cause anything," she replied. "Gravity did, and arrogance." Vance exhaled slowly through his nose, a man balancing pride and frustration. "You could have let the evaluators intervene. There was no requirement for you to act." She stared at him, not defiant, simply unmovable. "I don't stand and watch someone die. Not in training, not in war, not anywhere." A beat passed, he nodded. Not approval, recognition. "You know," he murmured, pouring coffee into 2 tin mugs, "there's talk in certain circles that you should come back. The field could use you." She let silence answer first. It always said more than words. "I served my years," she said eventually. "I buried my people. I earned my quiet." His eyes softened just barely. "Some people don't retire, they just wait." "Some people forget the cost," she returned. He didn't flinch. Admirals don't flinch. They just absorb truth like cold water. "You're here for a reason," he finally said. "Not just evaluation paperwork. You don't hide someone like you in the woods for bureaucracy." He stepped closer, voice lower. "What are you looking for?" She looked past him, past the canvas walls, past the command posts, past the mountain ridges. "I'm looking," she said softly, "to believe peace is possible." "And have you found that yet?" "No," she met his eyes, "but I'm learning why." Outside, laughter from younger cadets drifted like naive birdsong, light, thoughtless, untethered by reality. They didn't know the price of quiet skis. They didn't know how easily the world breaks when good men assume nothing will fall. Vance sipped his coffee. "They think strength looks like volume." "They'll learn," she said. "You could teach them." She shook her head. "I can only show them, the rest, that's on them." A shadow crossed the Admiral's face, admiration wrapped in regret. She didn't want praise. Praise felt like a funeral speech delivered while the heart still beat. "You know," he said quietly, "every time they tell stories about you, they get it wrong." "That's fine," she answered. "Stories aren't truth, they're comfort." "And what's truth, then?" She looked at him with a steadiness earned in dirt and blood and silence. "Truth," she whispered, "is doing the thing no one sees. Truth is walking away before they notice you were the one holding the line." The Admiral swallowed. He looked older suddenly, or maybe the world just looked younger around him. When she left the tent, the sun had climbed further. Cadets marched in formation on the field below, trying too hard to look disciplined, trying too hard to look strong. Nobody noticed her step out. Good. Greatness isn't seen, it's felt. As she walked past the training field, Miller sat on a bench, arm wrapped, blanket still wrapped around his shoulders like a child who just realized the world has teeth. His friends hovered nearby, unsure whether to comfort or avoid him, fear radiation hanging around trauma survivors. He looked up as she approached, not gratitude, not awe, just a raw question in his eyes. "Why me? Why did I fall? Why did she save me?" Survival always carries shame before it carries wisdom. She stopped in front of him. His voice cracked as he whispered, "I thought I was ready." "No one is ready," she replied. "That's why we train." His jaw trembled. I froze. "It happens. I should have been stronger." She crouched down, eyes level with his. Calm, unapologetic. "Strength isn't never freezing," she said. "Strength is learning why you did and choosing differently next time." He nodded, tears building but not falling. Boys are taught not to cry. Warriors learn crying doesn't kill you. Pride does. She stood again, shoulders steady, boots sinking slightly into soft earth. Behind her, whispers followed. Respect, fear, awe, the seeds of true discipline sprouting. But she didn't walk away feeling powerful. She walked away feeling tired. Because teaching the living always reminds you of the dead. At the edge of the parade ground, she paused, eyes drifting to the tree line, to quiet, to solitude. Some wounds don't bleed outward. Some bleed inward forever. She exhaled slowly, letting the cold fill her lungs before releasing it like a prayer she didn't believe in anymore. Somewhere behind her, a cadet murmured, "She saved him like she'd done it 1,000 times." And another whispered back, "She probably has." She didn't turn, she didn't need to. Echoes weren't her enemy, memory was. So she kept walking, steady, silent, alone. Not because she didn't need people, but because she didn't trust the universe to let her keep them. Why did stillness feel more dangerous than gunfire? The academy grounds woke slowly, like a town after snowfall, quiet, cautious, unsure how to move without breaking the fragile surface of calm. Days had passed since the ravine. The cadets no longer laughed as loudly. Their footsteps carried more weight. Their eyes didn't linger on her long, not out of disrespect but out of realization. Some people don't walk in the world. They move through it like a memory of war. Anna had spent her nights in the small cabin at the edge of the woods, lights off, coffee cooling untouched beside her. Sleep came in fragments. She didn't fight it. Fighting it only brought the old dreams sharper. Instead, she sat with her back against the rough wooden wall, eyes watching shadows crawl across the ceiling like distant clouds over a battlefield. When the nightmares came, she let them pass like storms. She didn't flinch anymore. Pain only owned you if you hid from it. That morning she walked toward the climbing tower. A group of cadets practiced not work, hands shaky, eyes darting toward her as if she were a myth that might vanish if they blinked wrong. She didn't stop. She didn't correct. They would make mistakes again and again, until one day mistakes wouldn't be a luxury anymore. At the base of the tower, she found Marcus Evans waiting. His posture was different now. Shoulders less lifted, jaw softer, not from defeat but from humility forced into him like bone resetting wrong before finally healing straight. He didn't speak at first. Smart. Silence gave truth room to find shape. "Ms. Reed," he finally managed, voice low, steady despite the tension behind it. "I owe you an apology." She didn't look at him fully, kept her eyes on the ropes instead. "You owe yourself reflection," she replied. "Apologies don't stop falls." He absorbed that, breathing once, twice. Not angry, learning. "I froze because I thought leadership meant certainty." His voice cracked slightly, not weakness, humanity. "Leadership means responsibility," she said quietly. "Certainty gets people killed." He swallowed hard. "How did you learn that?" A breeze cut through the trees, sharp as memory. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she watched a cadet slip on a foothold high above them. Instinctively, she stepped forward. His belay system caught, rope tugging tight. He steadied. Lesson learned without breaking. Only when she was sure he was safe did she turn back. "Not in a classroom," she said. "Not on a training field." She looked over his shoulder, not at him, but through him, into a place he wasn't ready to see. In places where there's no second chance to learn. His jaw tensed, not in pride but in comprehension. The kind that sits heavy in the chest, uncomfortable but necessary. "I want to understand," he said. "You will," she replied. "But not because you want to, because the world will force you to." He nodded slowly, then he surprised her. "I've been reading about rope systems, anchors, alpine rigging, trying to understand what you did." A faint flicker, not quite approval, not quite relief, crossed her expression. "Good. Study physics before ego." He let out a soft, shaky laugh. "That's not a quote I've heard in a leadership lecture." "That's because most leadership lectures are written by people who never had to lead when it mattered." His eyes dropped, not ashamed, humbled. "Why are you really here?" he asked suddenly. The air stilled. Wind paused. Even the cadets nearby seemed to quiet, though they couldn't hear her answer. She looked up at the mountains, rugged, indifferent, eternal. To measure whether this place still understands what it asks of the young. "And does it?" he pressed. She didn't soften, she didn't lie. Not yet. He nodded, a soldier accepting a hard truth. "Good. The world needed fewer men who crumbled under honesty." Before she could step away, a voice cut across the field. "Ma'am." Cadet Soto jogged up, breath clouding in the morning air. "The medic unit said you requested trauma supplies." Anna blinked once. She never said it aloud, she'd simply taken inventory silently the day before and stacked what was missing. Old habits. Preparation was survival long before it was efficiency. But Soto noticed. Good eyes, good instinct. Maybe the world still made warriors the right way sometimes. She nodded, accepting the small case Soto held. Sterile bandages, hemostatic gauze, venipuncture kit. Items ordinary people didn't think about unless they'd held someone bleeding. Evans saw it too. "That's not evaluation equipment," he murmured. "No," Anna replied. "It's living equipment." A memory pulled unbidden, unfiltered. Desert night. Dust in her teeth. A teammate's pulse fatting under her fingers. A tourniquet tightening one limb while another bled. A whispered apology, not because she failed, but because she hadn't been fast enough to save both. She closed the case gently, locking the latch. "You don't carry what you think you'll need," she said softly. "You carry what you refuse to be without." Evans listened like the ground beneath him was changing. In a way, it was. A helicopter hum echoed faintly in the distance, not urgent, just training this time. Yet the sound pulled every muscle in her body taut for a beat before she forced them loose again. Reflex. Ghosts have long reach. Soto stepped closer, voice hushed. "Do you ever stop feeling afraid?" Anna turned slowly. Her face softened just a fraction, in the way steel softens only after 1,000 hours of flame. "Fear never leaves," she said. "You just learn to make it stand at your shoulder instead of your throat." Soto swallowed, eyes glossy. How do you know when you're ready? You don't, she answered simply. You just go anyway. A shout rang from the tower. A cadet landed wrong during a controlled fall, ankle twisting, cry sharp with pain. Others rushed to him, fumbling with harness clips, babbling panic. Anna didn't run. Running wastes energy. She moved precise, efficient, straight line. Don't touch his knee, she ordered as she arrived, voice calm as a surgeon's steady breath. Support the joint, not the limb. They listened, not because she commanded, because trust had replaced doubt. Her hands worked fast, assessing swelling, checking pulses, pain reaction, stabilizing splint improvisation from webbing and frame pack. A young trainee medic beside her watched every move, absorbing knowledge like oxygen. You've done this before, he whispered, awe trembling through his words. She didn't look up, more times than I wanted to. Evans arrived seconds later, but she had already finished. Efficiency steals glory before it exists. As they carried the injured cadet to transport, someone whispered from the circle. She's like a ghost. Anna heard it, she nearly smiled. Ghosts don't haunt because they're angry. Ghosts stay because someone still needs finishing what they started. When the medic truck rolled away and the panic mellowed into murmurs, Evans exhaled shakily beside her. You don't just teach them to fight, he said. You teach them to live. She met his eyes, steady, unflinching, ancient in experience. Anyone can learn to fight, she said. The test is whether they learn how to survive afterward. He studied her, not the legend, not the myth, but the human beneath the quiet armor. What happens after surviving? He asked quietly. She stared into the tree line, as if expecting memory to walk out wearing dusty boots and a crooked grin. You learn, she whispered, how to live with the ones who didn't. The wind caught her hair. Somewhere, a training whistle blew. Life moved forward around her like she was a stone in a river, solid while everything washed past. Evans said nothing. He understood now that silence wasn't a wall around her, it was a memorial. She stepped away, boots crunching leaf and dirt, solitude wrapping around her like a cloak earned through fire. Behind her, cadets watched, not with fear, not with awe, with reverence tinged by a dawning heavy truth. Strength isn't what stands tallest. Strength is what carries the weight after everyone else collapses. And as she disappeared back into the trees, one thought settled like mist across their hearts. Some heroes don't retire. They just change battlefields. Why did the dark feel busier than daylight? The night training exercise was supposed to be simple: navigation, silent maneuver through forest, simulated extraction, controlled difficulty, controlled stakes. That's what they told the cadets, safety net tied tight, guard rails hidden in the dark. But the world rarely respects plans drawn by people who haven't bled for them. Moonlight cut through the treetops in thin white blades, the forest breathing cold mist. Cadets moved in staggered formation, clip-on infrared markers trailing like tired fireflies on packs. They whispered into radios. They thought whispering made them invisible. Anna moved ahead alone, like shadow training shadow. Silence traveled with her like a loyal animal, close, alert, sharp. Marcus Evans followed 30 yards behind with his squad. He wasn't barking orders now. He didn't march like someone certain of his authority. He moved like a man listening to the world for the first time, unsure where danger lay but knowing it existed. Good, uncertainty humbles you into awareness. A stick snapped under someone's boot. Breathing quickened. Another cadet cursed under breath. You hear that? One whispered. It's just deer, another answered, too confident. It wasn't deer. It wasn't danger either, but they didn't know that. They felt watched. There is a moment in every soldier's life when the woods stop being trees and start being eyes. Fear isn't the enemy. Ignorance is. Evans signaled for quiet, voice low, steady enough to keep them from unraveling. Anna watched from distance, hidden behind a cedar trunk, breath controlled, pulse an old rhythm carved by harder nights. She didn't lead them. She observed what they did when leadership wasn't a sound but a choice. Evans scanned his map under dim red light, jaw clenched, trying to lead without looking like he was trying too hard, trying to earn something he once thought he already deserved. He turned and stopped. She stood 5 paces away, stillness wearing human skin. He hadn't seen her approach. None of them had. His breath caught not in fear, but in recognition of skill he still couldn't comprehend. "Obstacle ahead," she whispered, voice steady as steel laid on velvet. "Rope bridge over creek. Narrow. Current below is faster than it looks." Evans nodded. "We'll cross one at a time." "No," she said. "You'll cross 3 at a time. Confidence is learned by leaning on others." He hesitated, not because he disagreed, but because trusting strength he didn't understand still felt like stepping off an edge. A lesson never fully learned until you fall. She turned, motioning. They followed. The bridge was nothing more than 2 cables stretched across a black ribbon of water, moon glinting on its jagged surface. One line to walk on, one to hold. Cadets stared at it like it was a challenge instead of a test. 3 at a time, Evans ordered. Voices wavered. That's how you can tell someone isn't ready. Not when they speak, when doubt sneaks between syllables. Soto went first. She swallowed fear without pretending it wasn't there. That caught Anna's eye. Fear faced is strength. Fear denied is disaster. Halfway across, movement flickered in the trees on the opposite bank. Subtle, wrong, too slow to be wind, too smooth to be animal. Anna's head turned slightly, shoulders settling into that old familiar readiness, weight shifting to the balls of her feet. The world sharpened, breath sitting low, mind clearing. She whispered, "Hold." Evans stiffened, "What is it?" She didn't answer. Some warnings require obedience, not explanation. A figure stepped out, instructor, camouflage blending him into the night. Simulated enemy. Not threat, but representation of one. He raised a blank-firing weapon for training effect. Cadets froze, muscles locked, breath stopped. Evans lifted a hand in halting reflex. Anna didn't move. The instructor fired a burst, loud snaps echoing through trees. Simunition markers glowed faintly in the dark. Fake bullets, fake threat. Real reaction. 2 cadets flinched enough to lose footing, bridge trembling under them. One gasped. Evans swore and started moving toward the line. Anna didn't shout. Shouting is panic wearing volume like armor. Instead, she spoke like someone who had steadied dying hands and promised peace in the last seconds of chaos. "Breathe, weight low, eyes forward." Her voice carried something deeper than command, presence earned where noise dies. The cadets listened, their bodies settled, tremor eased. Evans froze mid-step, realizing she had stabilized them without doing anything visible. Leadership isn't loud. Leadership isn't posture. Leadership is what steadies others when the world shakes. Anna stepped toward the instructor, slow, calm, eyes locked. He lowered his weapon instinctively, professionalism bending to something older, deeper than rank. "Scenario is over," she murmured. He opened his mouth to protest, to justify, to explain, but shut it again. She didn't outrank him. She didn't need to. Some authority comes from paper. Some comes from years. Hers came from graves. She turned back to Evans. "Continue." He swallowed, nodded, recovered. "Rotate positions. Those who crossed will secure landing side." They moved, shaken but learning. One cadet lingered behind a beat too long. Young, overthinking, trying to hide fear under breath that came too fast. Anna walked beside him. "What's your name?" "Quinn, ma'am." "Good instincts," she said. "Bad doubt." He blinked at her. That truth hit harder than any fake bullet. "Doubt keeps you alive," she continued, "but only if you use it to look harder, not freeze." He nodded. "Yes, ma'am." "No," she corrected gently. Understand, don't obey. Evans watched the exchange. Something shifted in his posture, realization carving space where arrogance used to live. When the last cadet crossed, Anna didn't follow. She scanned tree line, senses still tuned to threats that weren't part of the exercise. Evans approached. It was training. So was yesterday, she answered. He exhaled. She didn't look at him. She looked toward the dark like she expected it to answer something it stole. Do you ever stop feeling like danger is coming? He asked, quiet but not fragile. Yes, she said. He brightened, hope catching briefly. Then you remember someone who didn't see it in time, she finished, voice carved raw by truth. And the feeling returns. His face fell, not despair, but understanding heavy enough to bend the spine. I don't know if I can live like that, he whispered. You won't, she answered, not unless you have to. He studied her face. The way stillness sat in her eyes like a memory reading time instead of passing through it. You lost someone, he said. She didn't flinch. The night around them pulsed with quiet, thick and holy as church air. One, she murmured, then another, then it stopped being numbers. Wind rustled leaves, a branch creaked, somewhere far off an owl cried. Evans didn't ask names. Smart. Names hold weight and weight has gravity. Instead he asked, how did you carry it? She looked at the cadets ahead, young faces moving under moonlight, fragile in their optimism, unaware of the world's hunger. I didn't, she said. I still don't, I just move with it. He nodded, slow, respectful, hurt and gratitude mixed in the quiet. Some lessons don't break you. They carve space inside you for wisdom. She walked past him, stepping onto the cable bridge, body balanced, movements fluid. No hesitation. She had crossed worse things than water. Halfway across, she paused, speaking without turning. Leadership isn't protecting people from fear. It's teaching them to move through it. Evans stood behind her, hands lowered, breath held, voice steady. Teach me. She didn't answer, but the smallest shift in her shoulders, a barely there relaxing, was more acceptance than any salute. The creek flowed below, moonlight trembling on its surface like memory trying not to spill. She crossed to the other side without looking back. Because those who lead never look to see if they're followed. They listen for the footsteps. Tonight his footsteps were there. Tomorrow they would be stronger. And one day she hoped quiet. Why did memory strike hardest when the world was finally quiet? The sun had long set. The academy's lights glowed warm in the distance, a constellation of safety pinned against an ocean of dark forest. But she didn't walk toward safety. She walked toward silence. Anna's boots pressed softly into damp earth, pine needles cushioning every step. The air smelled of moss and old rain. Somewhere far off, someone laughed near the barracks, young, unscarred laughter. It echoed like a language she once spoke but no longer remembered the grammar of. She carried no pack tonight, no rope, no rifle, only a stainless steel thermos tucked in her hand, steam curling from the lid where she'd loosened it, bitter black coffee, unsweetened and unsentimental. It warmed her palm, not her chest. Nothing warmed the chest after war, not really. She reached the small clearing, a forgotten fire break from decades ago, now swallowed by grass and low brush. She came here every evening since the ravine. It was the only place on campus where life felt still enough to not demand anything from her. She sat on a fallen log, thermos set beside her, elbows on her knees. The woods breathed around her. No voices, no orders, no expectations. Just wind-tongued leaves whispering secrets of a world untouched by blood or badges or gravestones. A branch snapped behind her. She didn't turn immediately. She didn't need to. Footfall pattern, weight distribution, cascade of disturbed foliage. Only one person on this campus walked with both caution and conviction now. Cadet Evans, she said quietly. He stopped in the shadows, like a boy caught trespassing in a cathedral. How did you know it was me? You walk like someone trying not to disrespect the ground. A beat of silence, embarrassment, then a breath that sounded like he accepted she was right. May I sit? She didn't answer yes. She didn't answer no. She simply didn't move, and that was permission enough for those learning her language. He sat a meter away, respectful distance, hands clasped, shoulders tense. He took a breath. We had a briefing today. He stared at his boots. They reviewed the ravine incident again. Of course they did. Institutions are slow to learn unless humiliation burns deep enough to scar. They said I froze because I didn't trust my team, he continued, or the plan, that I should have delegated faster. She lifted her chin slightly. The forest sighed. They're wrong. His head jerked up. Surprise flickered across his face. You froze, she said softly, because you believed leadership meant being the strongest person in the room. Her voice carried no judgment. Judgment was for people who didn't know what fear tasted like. It doesn't, she continued. Leadership means being the most responsible for the outcome, not the loudest, not the boldest, the one who accepts the weight when it goes wrong. Evans swallowed hard. And you carry that weight. She didn't answer. The truth lived in her silence. He looked at her a long moment. The night hummed. An owl called somewhere. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. How do you live with it? There it was. The question every soldier meets eventually. The one not found in manuals. The one whispered in hospital rooms, inside helmets before patrol, on lonely mornings after folded flags are handed to trembling hands. She didn't look at him. She looked past him at darkness that wasn't empty, but full of faces she'd never forget. You don't live with it, she murmured. You learn how to carry it without dropping everything else. Lightning flashed far off in the night, sheet, lightning on a horizon that wasn't storming here, but somewhere distant. She felt the rumble in her bones before she heard it. Thunder always pulled memory like a rusted hook through scar tissue. Evans noticed the shift in her breathing. Concern softened his voice. Was that a trigger? She almost smiled, but it wasn't humor. Triggers don't announce themselves like polite guests. She paused. They show up like old friends you hoped you never see again. Another quiet, neither rushed it. It was Kandahar, wasn't it? He asked, careful. Her jaw clenched once. Yes. He waited, not pressing, just waiting like someone who had finally learned silence was not empty but sacred. She didn't want to speak. The words scraped her throat like broken glass, but some truths become poison if held too long without air. We were clearing a hillside compound. Intelligence said small cell, 3, maybe 4 fighters. Her voice sharpened, the tone of someone mentally stepping back into a uniform she no longer wore. It was 12. Evans didn't breathe. Tight corridors, low walls, dust so thick your teeth grit with every inhale. We moved room to room, controlled, methodical. Her hands flexed once, until the back door blew, tripwire. Secondary blast caught Jameson and Ruiz. She didn't blink, couldn't. If she blinked, she'd see their faces, see the moment the world swallowed them. I pulled Ruiz out first. His leg was gone, tourniquet, chest seal, pressure dressing. Her voice thinned, not weak, just stretched over memory like thin ice. Jameson was conscious, talking, joking. He always joked. Evans stared, silent, a pupil learning from pain instead of triumph. The evac bird took 27 minutes. Her eyes drifted to the woods, but she wasn't seeing trees. She was seeing rotor blades that didn't arrive in time. Ruiz lived, Jameson didn't. A long breath. Sometimes leadership is choosing which one you carry first. Evans flinched as if struck, empathy cutting clean through him. She finally looked at him. Her eyes weren't empty. They were full, too full. You learn that being the strongest doesn't mean saving everyone, she whispered. It means making decisions you'll hate yourself for and still doing them right. His voice shook. I don't think I could do that. You'll be shocked what you can do when the only alternative is letting people die. The sky rumbled again. Not storm, just memory echoing off the world. Evans wiped a hand across his face. Not tears, not exactly, but close. I don't know if I want that kind of burden. You don't choose it, she murmured. Command chooses you or it breaks you, sometimes both. He stared at his boots again, but not in shame, in reflection, heavy, real, unsoftened. After a long time, he whispered, Did anyone ever thank you? She exhaled slowly. The ones who lived, sometimes. And the ones who did. She closed her eyes just once, a blink slow as morning. They never blamed me, that's harder. The woods breathed with them, cold, honest, unjudging. Evans nodded once, a solemn acceptance. I think I understand why you came here. She didn't answer. So we would learn before we carry something we can't put down. Her throat tightened, not pain, something quieter, something almost like relief. Maybe, she said. He stood slowly. Thank you for sharing that. No, she corrected gently. I didn't share it, I remembered it out loud. He studied her. Respect wasn't enough for what he felt now. Reverence wasn't the word either. It was something heavier, gratitude mixed with grief for a life he'd never live and for the price she paid living it. He turned to leave, stopped. Ms. Reed. Cadet. If peace ever feels possible, even for a minute, you should let yourself have it. Her breath caught just barely, a tremor beneath stone. That's the hardest fight, she whispered. I know, he said, but maybe it's one worth trying. He walked away, footsteps soft, posture changed. He disappeared into the trees, swallowed by darkness, leaving her alone with the night and the ghosts she kept like metals carved from bone. She reached for the thermos. Coffee lukewarm now. She didn't drink it. She held it anyway, something solid, something real, something here. Lightning flared again at the horizon, but she didn't flinch this time. She looked up at the sky, quiet, unbroken, endless. And for a rare moment, a moment so brief a watch would miss it, she allowed herself a single breath that didn't hurt. Maybe peace wasn't something you earned. Maybe it was something you tried to deserve, one quiet night at a time. Even if you didn't believe you had earned it yet. Why does crisis always arrive disguised as routine? The morning broke clean and bright. Sunlight sliced through the trees, lighting dew on the grass like thousands of tiny signal mirrors. Birds called, boots marched. Voices carried, confident, refreshed by sleep and daylight. A peaceful morning on a training base. Peace never announces when it ends. Anna stood near the open field, supervising navigation drills from a distance. She didn't shout. She didn't pace. She watched the way a seasoned medic watches a pulse, reading more than movement. Evans jogged across the field, clipboard in hand, hair still damp from a rushed shower. He moved differently now, not lighter but steadier, like someone aware of the weight he carried, not afraid of it anymore. Morning, he said, breath visible in the cool air. She nodded once, that was enough. He hesitated. I thought about what you said last night. She didn't turn. Most people think about hard truths until breakfast, then they forget them. I won't forget. He didn't say it with bravado. He said it like a vow given quietly, without audience. Before she could answer, a distant shout cut the air, sharp, panicked, wrong. Heads turned. Another shout, closer this time. Evans went still. Anna's eyes narrowed, the edge of calm fractured. Running footsteps thundered across the training ground. A cadet, pale, sweating, breath broken, sprinted toward them. Soto, Evans called out as she approached. Cadet Soto stumbled to a stop, hands on her knees. Rope tower, top level. Quinn fell. He hit the edge. He's hanging. She didn't finish, didn't need to. Evans froze for half a heartbeat. Anna didn't. Move, she ordered. They sprinted, instructors and cadets trailing in a confused wave behind them. Bark scraped under boots, air cutting sharp, voices rising in frantic questions. The tower loomed 40 feet of wood and steel, ropes dangling like warning vanes. Cadets clustered at the base, panic thick in the air. Quinn dangled from a line, one-leg tangled body slipping inch by inch. His hands clawed the rope, grip failing. The harness had slipped wrong. A freak error, small mistake, huge consequence. He wasn't screaming, he was whispering. And whispered fear is the kind that burrows deepest. Don't let me fall, please. Anna's veins turned ice and fire at once. For a split second, the world doubled. Rope. Dust. Blood not yet spilled but promised. A hand reaching. A voice saying, "Stay with me." Kandahar punched through her chest. She inhaled once, slow, controlled. Then she climbed. No hesitation, no strap-in, no equipment. Raw hands gripping wood beams, boots finding holds with muscle memory carved by years and ghosts. Every cadet watched, silent, breath held. Evans turned to the group, voice cracking once before steadiness returned. Belay team, rope cutters ready but do not release unless ordered, spotters under fall zone. He barked orders fast, crisp, command born not from rank but responsibility. No one questioned him. Anna was already halfway up. Quinn sobbed, body trembling, rope fibers creeping through harness loops like betrayal. "Don't look down," she called, voice calm as still water. He whimpered, I can't hold on." "You don't have to," she replied. She reached him, one hand anchoring on a metal bracket, other bracing his shoulder. Her grip was steady, her presence the kind that turns panic into breath. "Listen to me," she murmured. "You're not falling today." He nodded frantically, breath sharp and fast. "What's your fear telling you?" she asked. "That I'm going to die." His voice cracked, raw and young. "No," she said. "Fear lies. It only remembers danger, not survival." Slowly she shifted her weight, sliding one arm under his harness. "I'm here. Breathe like mine. Inhale. Hold. Exhale." He followed, shaking eased. Grip steadied just enough. Down below, Evans worked with the belay team. Slack. Anchor line tension. Prepare pulley assist. He didn't yell out of panic. He commanded out of duty. He was learning. Anna secured Quinn's harness manually, improvised, rapid. She tied a backup knot with the rope edge fraying by his knee. Her fingers paused a fraction of a second on the knot, old instinct checking, double-checking, honoring every life she ever held before. "Okay," she whispered, "we move together." They descended, slow, controlled. The belay team caught smoothly. Evans coordinated like he'd been doing it for years. When her boots touched earth, the world exhaled. Cadets sagged, adrenaline folding them inward. Quinn collapsed into her shoulder, breath hiccuping. I thought I was." "You weren't," she said softly, "because you asked for help before it was too late." A lesson wrapped in comfort. Evans approached. "Medical team en route. We stabilized the system." She nodded once, approval unspoken but felt. Quinn looked between them, tears streaking dirt. "I'm sorry I messed up." "No," Anna interrupted gently. "You survived, that's not failure." Soto crouched beside him. "We've got you, Quinn." Deep breath. Evans looked at Anna, not in awe but recognition. "You froze," she murmured, "for half a second." He nodded, "Yes." "And then you moved." His throat tightened. "Because I've been watching you move." Her eyes softened just barely. "Good, but you'll need to lead without needing to see me." "Will I?" he asked. A pause. "The world doesn't always give you someone to follow." EMS arrived, lifting Quinn onto a stretcher. His hand shot out, grabbing Anna's sleeve. "Thank you," he whispered. "I didn't deserve." Stop. Her voice gentle, firm. You deserve life the moment you fight for it. Evans watched her, and in his face something new. Not admiration. Not intimidation. Responsibility. He wasn't becoming her. He was becoming someone capable because she existed. The crowd slowly dispersed. Soto stayed a moment, eyes red. "Ma'am, does it ever get easier?" "No," Anna answered, "but you get stronger where it hurts." Soto nodded, pressing her lips tight to keep from crying. Then she jogged after Quinn. Silence returned, slowly, gently. Evans stepped closer. "Kandahar." She didn't flinch. "Yes." "You saved him." She shook her head once. "He saved himself when he called for help." He swallowed, understanding cut deep. "Is that what Jameson didn't do?" Her breath hitched, a microscopic wound reopening. "He joked instead," she replied, "and I mistook humor for strength." Evans lowered his eyes, not out of shame but respect. "What would you have wanted someone to do for you back then?" he asked. She looked at the horizon, sun climbing, gold on the trees. "Not fix me," she whispered, "just see I was breaking." Evans nodded. "I see you." Her jaw tightened. Vulnerability stung sharper than shrapnel. "Be careful with that," she murmured. "Seeing someone costs more than looking at them." "And worth it," he replied. She didn't answer, didn't need to. He already understood. Some warriors fight wars outside. Others fight the ones they brought home. Some fight both. Anna walked away, steps slow but steady, breath deep, heart still wounded but beating forward. Behind her, Evans whispered to no one. "I thought strength meant not needing help. Now I see real strength is allowing yourself to." His voice didn't shake this time. For the first time, Anna didn't feel like a ghost leading the living. She felt faintly, frighteningly human again. Why is it always easier to carry others than to let someone carry you? Night draped the academy in quiet shadows, the kind that stretch long and soften even the sharpest angles of buildings, branches, memory. Most cadets slept, exhaustion pulling them into uncomplicated dreams. Anna didn't sleep. She sat alone on the bench behind the armory, elbows on her knees, hands clasped. The cold seeped through her sleeves, but it didn't bother her. Cold grounded. Cold reminded her she was here, not there. Present, not reliving. Most nights that worked. Tonight it didn't. Quinn's panic, his shaking breath, his desperate whisper, "Don't let me fall." It looped in her mind, but it was Quinn's voice anymore. It was Jameson. "Hey, Anna, you okay?" Laughing through pain. Pretending. Dying anyway. Her fingers tightened until her knuckles paled. 5 seconds passed. 10. The ache didn't ease. Some ghosts do not visit, they linger. Boots approached, controlled pace. Alert steps, not nervous ones. She didn't turn. She learned a lifetime ago to recognize a person by their silence. Evan stopped beside her. "Couldn't sleep," he said quietly. She didn't answer. He sat slowly, leaving space, not intruding, not retreating. "You saved him today." She stared at the gravel. "I did what had to be done." That's what everyone says when they do something extraordinary. She exhaled through her nose, not derision, not annoyance. Restraint, fighting emotion the way other people fight fire. Evans watched her, not with awe or expectation but patience. "Why are you really here, Ms. Reed?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. "You didn't come to observe. You didn't come to lecture technique. You came because—" "Stop." Her whisper cut clean. He did. Silence held between them, stretched thin, trembling but intact. "It's not weakness to be honest," he murmured. "It is," she corrected, "if you grew up in rooms where honesty got people killed." His breath caught. Understanding arrived late but heavy. Trauma had rules, brutal ones. Then gently, "You're not in those rooms anymore." Her jaw clenched. Memory does not recognize geography. Trauma doesn't check maps. You built a life around surviving, he continued. This place, these cadets, they force you to remember how to live. Her throat tightened, enough that speaking hurt. She hated that. This was supposed to be temporary, she whispered, bitterness almost disguised as control. A few weeks, then I leave. Do you want to? She didn't answer, couldn't. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees like hers, matching not to mirror but to meet. You told Quinn today that survival isn't failure. She closed her eyes. Pain bloomed. Same shape, same weight as always, but tonight it sat closer to the surface. I survived, she murmured, but I didn't live. Evans let the words settle, not pitying, not pushing, just receiving truth that had never been spoken aloud. I don't know how, she admitted. There. A wound. Not bleeding but exposed. Evans didn't offer comfort. He didn't touch her shoulder. He didn't say it would be okay. He understood something most never learn. Some pain can't be soothed. It can only be shared so it stops being alone. You don't have to know how yet, he said. You just need to want to. She turned to him, eyes steady but fragile at the edges. And if I do? Then you keep surviving until wanting returns. A long quiet, not empty, full of what wasn't spoken but understood. The academy floodlights flicked off with a timed click. Darkness settled deeper. Leaves rustled like old paper turning pages. Walk with me, he said. She shook her head. I don't need company. You don't, he agreed, but you deserve it. That struck harder than any shell burst. Deserve. A word she hadn't applied to herself in years, maybe ever. She didn't stand, she didn't look at him, but she asked, voice barely there. What if I break? He exhaled, not startled, but moved. Then you break, he said, and then you stand up again, that's still strength. Her hand trembled once, so slight a candle flame wouldn't have shifted, but it was there. Evans didn't react. No gasp, no reassurance. He let her be human without making it a spectacle. She stood, slow, controlled, vulnerability handled like a live explosive. He rose too, but didn't step closer. They walked side by side, not touching, not talking, just breathing the same night air. At the edge of the practice field, she paused. If I leave, she said quietly, you'll still lead. He nodded, because you showed me how. And if I stay? He hesitated, then we figure out what comes next. Lightning didn't flash this time. No thunder rolled, but something in her chest shifted, barely perceptible but real. A question lingered between them. What if healing didn't look like forgetting the war? What if it looked like learning the world kept moving, and she was allowed to move with it? Good night, cadet. Good night, Ms. Reed. She walked toward the barracks. He didn't watch her go. Respect is knowing when someone needs to walk away without eyes on their back. For the first time since she arrived, her steps didn't feel like they were dragging ghosts behind them. They felt like they led somewhere. Lonely still, yes, but not lost. The kind of lonely that came before rebuilding. The kind built on possibility instead of pain. Sometimes strength isn't refusing to fall. Sometimes strength is letting someone stand beside you while you find your balance again. Tonight she didn't fall. Tonight she didn't run. Tonight she allowed the chance, just the chance, that she didn't have to be a ghost forever. Why does the hardest choice arrive only after you've finally begun to heal? Dawn came slow, reluctant, as if the sky knew today mattered and wanted to give the world a few extra breaths before it shifted. Final assessment day. Cadets lined the field in full gear, packs buckled, rifles slung, faces serious, energy taut like a drawn bow. This wasn't a test of skill. It was a test of who they had become when fear and responsibility braided together. Anna stood near the observation point, gloved hands behind her back, face unreadable, but inside a tide shifting. Not crashing, not violent, just turning as tides do when the moon pulls quietly but relentlessly. Evans approached, helmet clipped to his vest, notes tucked, eyes calm. Cadet no longer in posture, leader in bearing. "Any advice?" he asked. "None you don't already carry," she answered. He swallowed, not doubt, gratitude. A horn sounded. Cadets surged forward into the forest trail. Live navigation, timed objectives, medical tests, fire discipline, leadership under stress, real-world simulation of chaos. Not war, but close enough to taste it. Anna moved ahead silently, flanking through trees like an echo. She didn't interfere. She watched, evaluated, learned what they'd learned from her. And Evans, he surprised her. At the first simulated casualty scenario, he didn't rush. He anchored, assigned roles, checked airway, mapped exit route, delegated not from fear, from clarity. She saw it in his eyes. He didn't think about impressing anyone. He thought about getting everyone home. That was the shift. Midway through the course, a weather system rolled in fast, unplanned. Gray clouds swallowing blue, wind kicking leaves into frantic spin. Nature doesn't respect schedules. Cadets tightened jackets, breath fogged, radios crackled, someone muttered, "Of course it storms today." Anna felt the first static in the air, and her heartbeat answered memory trying to rise. Evans noticed her inhale tighten. He stepped near enough for his voice to be private. "You okay?" The question wasn't light, wasn't casual. It was permission to struggle without shame, a lifeline offered, not thrown. "I'm here," she answered softly. Sometimes that's the bravest sentence in the world. They advanced. Terrain grew rough, muddy incline, roots slick, branches slapping. Quinn led rope team this time, voice steady despite residual fear in his eyes. He wasn't fear-free. He was fear-capable. Halfway up the ridge, radio burst. Unit 3 lost footing, sprained ankle, stuck on ledge. Evans paused only a second, then turned to his team, precise, steady. Soto medkit, Quinn anchor line, Harris overwatch move. Anna watched, muscles tight, instinct pulling her forward, old leadership instinct clawing like a warning ghost. "They need you, step in." But they didn't. Evans repelled smoothly, voice controlled. "I've got you, slow breath, you're safe." Soto anchored from above. Cadet on the ledge sobbed once, then steadied under leadership, not command. They extracted him in under 2 minutes. No panic, no hesitation. No Anna required. Her heartbeat stuttered. Not from fear. From realization. They didn't need her anymore. She wasn't sure whether to feel relief or loss. The course continued. Rain started light, then heavy. Cadets pressed through mud, soaked but focused. Evans moved like someone who understood leadership wasn't posture but presence. At the final station, the firing course, thunder cracked overhead. Anna froze. Not visibly, but inside, world split. Kandahar night, explosive flash, a body collapsing, her hands covered in sand and blood. Evans glanced back, saw the shift. Noticed. Stopped. Turned. He walked to her side. No audience, no dramatics. "You don't have to fight ghosts alone," he whispered. Rain clung to her lashes, water or emotion indistinguishable. "I'm not frozen," she murmured. "No," he agreed. "You're remembering, that's different." Thunder rolled again, trees shook, and she did something she hadn't done since she left service. She exhaled. Not forcefully, not controlled. Just let breath leave without armor. Cadets finished final shots, accuracy high, discipline solid. When the horn blew end of course, cheers erupted, tired and triumphant. Hands slapped backs. Mud-streaked uniforms like badges earned. Evans approached his class, voice steady. You did more than pass a test. You became people who don't break when others depend on you. They nodded, tired, emotional, proud. Then Quinn turned toward Anna, raising his voice louder than nerves liked. And we owe that to you, ma'am. She opened her mouth to deny, to redirect, to keep distance. But she didn't. You did this yourselves, she said. I only reminded you what you were capable of. Soto wiped rain from her face, not tears, just water, except maybe not only water. Still matters, she said softly. The group dispersed slowly. Pride stretched across muddy ground like sunlight through storm clouds. Evans remained by her side, quiet, present. So he said gently, do you go now? She looked at the field, the tower, the woods, every place she had stood alone and eventually been seen. This place doesn't need me anymore, she said. That's not the same as you not needing it. Silence, deep, real. I don't know who I am outside of service, she whispered. Maybe you learn, he said, here with them, with us. A dangerous softness there, not romantic, deeper, human connection, shared burden. Respect turned into something steadier than admiration and quieter than dependence. Belonging. She turned away briefly, overwhelmed by the unfamiliar weight of hope. You think I can? She asked. I think, he said, you already started. Wind stirred. Rain eased. Clouds thinned just enough to let a shard of morning light spill across the field. She nodded once, not a surrender, not a decision carved in certainty, just an admission. She wasn't ready to leave. Not yet. Then I'll stay, she whispered, not to protect them, but to learn how to live among them. Evans smiled, small, honest. Good. They stood side by side, no titles, no roles. Just two people who carried weight and decided maybe it didn't need to crush them anymore. A whistle blew somewhere. Cadets laughed. Rain turned to mist. Sun tried again. And for the first time in longer than she cared to admit, Anna felt a future instead of just a past. Not because she avoided the ghosts, but because she stopped walking alone. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply stands, shoulder to shoulder, and chooses life again. Quietly, deliberately, one step forward at a time.